Happy Sunday, everyone. I've always wished I could have an outdoor library time with you, and today, in a way, I get to do that. I've chosen an extra special magical book for you today. It is Gaio Fujikawa's Come Follow Me to the secret world of elves and fairies and gnomes and trolls. If I were just a fairy small, I'd take a leaf and sail away. I'd sit astride the stem and guide it straight to fairyland and stay. This book is a mixture of short poems, short stories. Some of them we know the author, some of them are unknown, like that last one I read. The Fairy Queen. Come follow me, you fairy elves that be, which circle on the green. Come follow Mab, your queen. Hand in hand let's dance around, for this place is fairy ground. Upon a mushroom's head our tablecloth we spread. A grain of rye or wheat is manchet which we eat. Pearly drops of dew we drink in acorn cups filled to the brink. The Elf and the Dormouse. Under a toadstool crept a wee elf, out of the rain to shelter himself. Under a toadstool, sound asleep, sat a big dormouse, all in a heap. Trembled the wee elf, frightened and yet fearing to fly away lest he get wet. To the next shelter, maybe a mile. Sudden the wee elf smiled a wee smile. Tugged till the toadstool toppled in two. Holding it over him, gaily he flew. Soon he was safe home, dry as could be. Soon woke the dormouse. Good gracious me! Where's my toadstool? Loud he lamented. And that's how umbrellas first were invented. That is written by Oliver Herford. Some little people who live in a secret world. We have gnomes, a leprechaun, fairies and goblins, elves, more fairies, and trolls. The Goblin. A goblin lives in our house, in our house, in our house. A goblin lives in our house all the year round. He bumps and he jumps and he stumps. He knocks and he rocks and he rattles at the locks. A goblin lives in our house, in our house, in our house. A goblin lives in our house all the year round. I'm just choosing my favorite ones from here. Some of them are a little long to read today. Mr. Moon. Oh moon, Mr. Moon, when you comin' down? Down on the hilltop, down in the glen, out in the clearin' to play with little men. Moon, Mr. Moon, when you comin' down? The Little House. In a great big wood, in a great big tree, there's the nicest little house that could possibly be. There's a tiny little knocker on the tiny little door and a tiny little carpet on the tiny little floor. There's a tiny little table and a tiny little bed and a tiny little pillow for a teeny weeny head. A tiny little blanket and a tiny little sheet and a tiny water bottle, hot, for tiny little feet. A tiny little eiderdown, a tiny little chair, and a tiny little kettle for the owner when he's there. In a tiny little larder, there's a tiny thermos bottle for a tiny little greedy man who knows the woods of pottle. There's a tiny little peg for a tiny little hat and a tiny little dog and a tiny little cat. If you've got a little house and you keep it spick and span, perhaps there'll come to live in it a tiny little man. You may not ever see him. He is extremely shy. But if you find a crumpled sheet or pins upon the window seat or see the marks of tiny feet, you'll know the reason why. Someone came knocking at my wee small door. Someone came knocking, I'm sure. I listened, I opened, I looked left and right, but naught there was a stirring in the still, dark night. Only the busy beetle tap-tapping in the wall. Only from the forest the screech owl's call. Only the cricket whistling while the dewdrops fall. So I know not who came knocking at all. Did you spot who came knocking? How to tell goblins from elves. The goblin has a wider mouth than any wandering elf. The saddest part of this is that he brings it on himself. For hanging in a willow clump, in a basket made of sheaves, you may see the baby goblins under coverlets of leaves. They suck a pink and podgy foot as human babies do, and then they suck the other one until they're sucking too. And so it's that goblins' mouths keep growing very round. So you can't mistake a goblin when a goblin you have found. And I think we have time for one last poem. The last one in the book, it's called My Fairy Friends. In the wonderful valley that never ends, I love to look for my fairy friends, to see their queer little heads pop out, quick as a flash when no one's about. Like lizards they lurk in the tufts of the grass that shake suspiciously when I pass. In the valley where purple crocuses grow, they delight their silver horns to blow. But creepy it is in the twilight hour, when ghosts and goblins resume their power. Then the twisted trunk of a common tree has arms and legs and a face to see. But I'm not afraid, not a bit, not I. For my fairy friends come floating by, and they nod and they smile in their lovely way at a little lost mortal gone astray. And with their protection, I feel so strong, as if the whole world did to me belong. And that poem is written by Margaret Arndt. I hope you found the book as magical as I do. Maybe I can read some of the longer stories to you another day.